The vast emptiness of space stretched out before the Galactic Alliance exploration vessel, Horizon Seeker. Its sleek, silver hull gleamed under the distant light of unfamiliar stars. On the command deck, Captain Trell stood with his forearms crossed, his scaled skin reflecting the soft blue glow of the ship's control panels. "Sir, we're picking up an unknown vessel at the edge of Sector 7, announced Navigator Rin, her antennae twitching with excitement. "It appears to be adrift." Captain Trell moved to the main view screen, his large yellow eyes narrowing as the image of a dark, strange-looking ship came into focus. It was unlike any design in the Alliance database, all harsh angles and reinforced plating, as if built to withstand extreme conditions. "Run a full scan," ordered Trell, "and prepare a boarding. Team, I want to know where this ship came from and what happened to its crew." The scan results came back minutes later, causing a ripple of unease among the bridge crew. "Sir," reported Science Officer Dax, his voice trembling slightly. "The ship's design suggests it originated from the system we've classified as Death, World 115. A hush fell over the bridge. Death worlds were planets with conditions so extreme that they were considered uninhabitable by any intelligent life. Class 115 was among the worst, a planet of crushing gravity, extreme temperature variations, aggressive predators, and deadly microorganisms. "That's impossible," Trell said firmly. "Nothing intelligent could evolve in those conditions, let alone develop space travel." "The evidence suggests otherwise, Captain," Dax replied, displaying the scan data. "The hull is designed to withstand impacts and radiation levels far beyond what any Alliance species could endure. The internal atmosphere contains elements toxic to most sentient species." Trell hesitated only briefly. "Prepare environmental suits with maximum protection. I'll lead the boarding party myself." 4 hours later, Trell led a team of 5 specialists through the airlock and into the abandoned vessel. Their suits, the most advanced protection the Alliance could provide, felt bulky and restrictive. The internal lighting of the strange ship was dim, with occasional flickers suggesting damaged systems. "The air composition would be lethal to us," noted Medical Officer Vin, checking his scanner. "High oxygen levels, nitrogen, and traces of carbon dioxide. And the gravity, it's nearly twice what we're used to. What kind of beings could live in these conditions?" whispered Engineer Lob, struggling slightly under the increased gravity. They moved deeper into the ship, discovering corridors designed for bipedal creatures of approximately their size. The technology was both familiar and alien, recognizable in purpose but built with materials and designs unlike anything in the Alliance database. In what appeared to be the ship's control center, they found the first signs of what had happened. Scorch marks lined the walls and several control panels were smashed. "Signs of a struggle," observed Security Officer Pell, her hand resting on her weapon, "or some kind of accident." Science Officer Dax activated what appeared to be the ship's log terminal. Strange symbols appeared on the screen. "I can't decipher this language," he admitted, "but I can access some of the navigational data. This ship definitely came from Death World 115, which the inhabitants appear to call Earth." The team exchanged nervous glances through their helmet visors. "Keep searching," ordered Trell. "I want to know what happened here, and whether whatever caused this could pose a threat to Alliance space." As they continued exploring, Engineer Lob discovered a sealed laboratory section. "Captain, you need to see this," he called out, his voice filled with wonder and fear. Inside the lab, contained within a now damaged energy field, was a device unlike anything they had seen before. It pulsed with a strange energy that their scanners could barely register. "This technology isn't from Death World 115, Dax said after running several scans. "It's far more advanced. I believe these Earth creatures found something ancient and were studying it. And it got loose," Pell added grimly, pointing to deep gouges in the metal floor, scratches that led to a damaged escape pod bay. Suddenly, the ship's emergency systems blared to life, startling the boarding party. Red lights flashed throughout. "The corridors. What's happening?" demanded Trell. "Another ship is approaching," came the urgent voice of Navigator Rin from the Horizon Seeker. "It appeared out of nowhere, some kind of advanced propulsion system we couldn't detect until it was already close." Back to our ship now, ordered Trell. But before they could reach the airlock, the entire vessel shuddered. We're being locked. In a tractor beam, reported Lob, checking his scanner. The approaching ship it's from the same place. Another Death World 115 vessel. Trell made a quick decision. Hold position. Let's see what we're dealing with. They waited tensely as the sound of the airlock cycling echoed through the abandoned ship. Moments later, they heard footsteps, lighter than expected given the high gravity these beings would be accustomed to. Around the corner came three bipedal creatures in sleek, form-fitting suits that were far less bulky than the Alliance team's environmental protection. Their faces were visible behind clear helmets, pink-beige skin, forward-facing eyes, and small ears pressed against the sides of their heads. They moved with surprising grace despite the artificial gravity. The lead figure stepped forward, raising an empty hand in what seemed to be a peaceful gesture. "Hello," the creature said, its voice translated through some unseen technology. "I'm Captain Jack of the Earth exploration vessel Pathfinder. I see you've found our missing research ship." The Alliance team stood frozen in shock. Not only had they encountered beings from a death world, but these creatures were speaking to them calmly, as if meeting alien species was an everyday occurrence. You're from Earth? Death World 115? Stammered Trell. The human, for that was what these creatures called themselves, tilted his head in confusion. "Death World? Is that what you call our home?" Captain Jack seemed amused. "We just call at Earth. And yes, we've been looking for this vessel for 3 weeks now. Lost contact after they reported finding something of interest in this sector." Trell struggled to process this information. These humans moved and spoke as if the conditions that would kill most Alliance species were perfectly normal. They didn't even seem bothered by the gravity or atmosphere. "We mean no harm," Trell said carefully. "We discovered this vessel adrift and came to investigate." Captain Jack nodded. "We appreciate the concern, but I'm afraid you may have walked into something dangerous. This ship was researching an artifact we discovered, something very old and very powerful, and based on their last transmission, whatever they found got loose." As if to emphasize his point, a deep rumble shook the abandoned vessel. "That's not good," muttered one of the other humans, a stocky male who introduced himself as Engineer Rick. "Power core's becoming unstable." Captain Jack turned to Trell. "I suggest we continue this conversation somewhere safer. Our ship or yours, though I should warn you, our environmental conditions might be uncomfortable for your species." Trell looked at these strange beings, creatures from a world that should have been impossible to survive on, let alone evolve intelligence, and made his decision. "You're welcome aboard the Horizon Seeker. We have chambers that can be adjusted to various atmospheric conditions." Jack smiled, a gesture that somehow translated across species barriers. "Excellent, because we have a lot to discuss about what was on this ship, and where it might have gone." As they headed toward the airlock, Trell couldn't help but notice how confidently the humans moved, how unbothered they seemed by the situation. It was then he realized that the galaxy had just become a much more complicated place, because if these humans could evolve on a death world and reach the stars, what else about the universe had the Alliance misunderstood? Aboard the Horizon Seeker, Captain Trell watched with fascination as the three humans removed their helmets. Despite warnings from Medical Officer Vin about possible contamination, the humans insisted they carried no harmful pathogens. The Alliance crew kept a cautious distance nonetheless. "Our medical technology took care of disease threats centuries ago," explained Captain Jack, running a hand through his short brown hair. "We understand your concerns, though. First contact protocols are tricky." The conference room had been adjusted to accommodate both species. For the Alliance crew, it was uncomfortably warm and heavy, while the humans mentioned it felt a bit chilly and light. Yet these Death World creatures showed no real discomfort, only mild adjustment. Science Officer Dax couldn't contain his professional curiosity. "Your physiology is remarkable. How do you survive on a Class 115 world?" The female human, Chief, Scientist Emma, smiled. "I think the better question is, How would you classify our world as uninhabitable when it clearly produced intelligent life? Her question silenced the room. Our classification system is based on what conditions most known sentient species can survive, Trell explained carefully. Your world has extreme temperature ranges, crushing gravity by our standards, aggressive predators, powerful weather systems, and high oxygen levels that would be toxic to many species. Engineer Rick laughed, a sound that startled several Alliance crew members. You just described a nice spring day on Earth. Though I'll admit, the predators can be a problem in some regions. The casual way these humans discussed conditions that would kill most Alliance species sent a chill through Trell's scales. Perhaps, began Trell, steering the conversation back to more pressing matters, we should discuss what you were researching on that abandoned vessel. Captain Jack's expression grew serious. 3 months ago, one of our deep space probes detected energy signatures unlike anything we've seen before. We sent the research vessel Venture to investigate. They found what appears to be technology from a civilization far older than humanity's. Emma activated a holographic display showing an object that pulsed with strange energy. The same device the Alliance team had seen in the ship's damaged laboratory. We believe it's at least 1 million years old, she continued. The Venture was bringing it back for study when we lost contact. And you believe something we escaped? Asked Security Officer Pell. The evidence suggests it, Rick confirmed, showing damage reports from the abandoned ship. Whatever was inside that containment field is gone now. And based on the ship's log data we recovered before you arrived, it's intelligent and hostile. Captain, Trell considered this information carefully. This could pose a threat to Alliance space. It poses a threat to everyone, Jack said firmly, which is why I propose a joint operation. Your people clearly have extensive knowledge of this region of space. We have experience with the artifact. Trell's 4 arms shifted in the gesture of his species that indicated deep thought. Alliance protocols were clear about contact with unknown species, especially ones from death worlds, yet these humans seemed reasonable, and the potential threat was significant. I will need to consult with Alliance Command, Trell finally said. Of course, Jack nodded. In the meantime, would you allow our engineer to examine the abandoned vessel more thoroughly? There might be clues about where this entity went. 6 hours later, both crews gathered again. Alliance Command had responded with cautious approval for limited cooperation, heavily emphasizing information gathering about these Deathworld inhabitants. On the view screen, Engineer Rick's findings painted a disturbing picture. The entity didn't just escape, it learned, Rick explained, pointing to damaged computer systems. It accessed the ship's databases, absorbed information about our technology, and then, well, it seems to have evolved. Evolved? Questioned Dax. The artifacts we found suggest it started as energy, then developed physical form by manipulating matter around it. By the time it left the ship, it had constructed some kind of body. Emma continued. Based on the ship's final logs, the creature was drawn to power sources. It absorbed energy from the ship's systems before escaping. Captain Jack tapped a control, bringing up a star chart. We've tracked the emergency beacon from the escape pod the creature used. It's heading toward a specific set of coordinates. The Alliance crew leaned forward as the destination became clear on the map. Trell's yellow eyes widened. That's Deathworld 115, Earth. It's going to your home planet. Jack nodded grimly. Yes, and given how it consumed energy on the ship, we believe it senses something on Earth that's attracting it. Your planet's power grid, Dax realized. If this entity feeds on energy, your civilization's power infrastructure would be like a feast. We need to intercept it before it reaches Earth, Jack said. The Pathfinder is fast, but we could use help. Trell felt the weight of decision pressing down on him. Alliance protocols advised minimal contact with new species until proper evaluation, especially those from death worlds. Yet the humans had been nothing but cooperative, and this threat seemed genuine. If this entity is as dangerous as you suggest, we cannot allow it to reach an inhabited world. Even a death world, Trell decided. The Horizon Seeker will accompany you. Relief spread across Jack's face. Thank you, Captain. As the meeting ended and preparations began, Medical Officer Vin approached Trell privately. "Captain, I must express concern," Vin said quietly. "These humans, they evolved in conditions that would kill us instantly. Their casual attitude toward environments we find lethal is disturbing." "I've considered that," Trell admitted, "but I've seen no signs of hostility, only pragmatism." "That's what concerns me," Vin insisted. "A species that evolved on a death world must possess extraordinary survival instincts. What else might they be capable of that we cannot imagine?" Trell had no answer for that. The journey toward Earth took 3 days at maximum speed. During this time, the crews cautiously began working together. The Alliance scientists were particularly fascinated by human physiology and history. "You mean your planet has had over a dozen extinction-level events?" Dax asked Emma during a shared meal, with very different foods for each species. "Oh yes," Emma replied, casually eating her sandwich. "Asteroid impacts, supervolcanoes, ice ages. Life keeps bouncing back, adapting. Humans are just the latest model of survivor." "And your space program?" asked Navigator Rin. "How long have your people been exploring beyond your world? Officially?" "About 200 years, Jack answered. "Though we've been keeping a low profile. We detected signals from various civilizations and decided observation was wiser than immediate contact." "You've been watching us?" Pell asked, her security training triggering alarm. Rick shrugged. "We've observed many species. The galaxy is a complex place with complex politics. As a young, spacefaring civilization, we thought it best to understand before diving in." The implications of this statement weren't lost on the Alliance crew. These Death World creatures had been aware of the galactic community all along, silently watching and evaluating from the shadows. On the 3rd day, Engineer Lob and Rick made a breakthrough while examining data from the abandoned research vessel. "Captain," Rick called over the communication system, "we've identified what the entity is." Both captains gathered in the science lab as Rick displayed his findings. "It's a guardian," he explained. "The ancient civilization created it to protect their technology from unauthorized use. When our research team tried to study the artifact, they accidentally triggered its defense system. But something went wrong," Lob added. "Instead of simply neutralizing the threat, it became corrupted. It's still following its programming to protect the technology, but now it sees all advanced technology as a threat. And it's heading for the planet with some of the most rapidly advancing technology in this sector," Captain Jack concluded grimly. "Your Earth," confirmed Trell. The view screen changed to show their destination. Earth, Deathworld 115, came into view, a blue-green sphere swirled with white clouds. It looked deceptively peaceful from space. "We'll reach Earth in 6 hours, announced Navigator Rin, "but the entity will arrive 2 hours before us." Captain Jack's expression hardened. "Then we need to warn Earth Defense Forces immediately, and I hope your crew is prepared, Captain Trell." "Prepared?" asked Trell. "To visit a death world," Jack replied seriously. "Because to stop this thing, we're going to need to work together on the surface." Trell felt a chill run through his body. The thought of actually setting foot on a Class 115 death world was terrifying. Yet as he looked at the determined faces of the humans, he realized they regarded his fear as strange. To them, Earth wasn't a death world. It was simply home. As the Horizon Seeker and the human vessel Pathfinder approached Earth, tension filled the Alliance ship. Captain Trell called an emergency meeting with his senior officers. "We will be entering Earth's atmosphere in 4 hours," he announced. "Participation in the surface mission is strictly voluntary. I cannot order any of you to set foot on a Class 115 death world." The room fell silent. Then, to Trell's surprise, Science Officer Dax stepped forward. "Captain, I volunteer," he said. "The scientific opportunity is too valuable to miss." "Security," Officer Pell joined him. "I'll go as well. If this entity is as dangerous as we believe, you'll need protection." One by one, the senior officers volunteered, though Medical Officer Vin visibly trembled as he did so. Captain Trell felt a surge of pride in his crew. "Then it's settled," he said. "We will assist the humans on their world. Engineer Lob, Prepare our most robust environmental suits. Medical Officer Vin, bring every protective measure and antidote we have. On the bridge, the view of Earth filled the main screen. Patches of blue ocean, green and brown land masses, and swirling white clouds made it look deceptively peaceful. "It's beautiful," whispered Navigator Rin. "And deadly," reminded Vin. "Those white formations are water vapor suspended in the atmosphere. They can generate electrical discharges powerful enough to vaporize most Alliance species. The blue areas are liquid dihydrogen monoxide, corrosive to many life forms." Engineer E. Lob studied the readings with growing concern. "The gravity is 2.2 times what we're accustomed to. The atmospheric pressure would crush our bodies without protection, and the oxygen levels would be like breathing fire for our respiratory systems." Captain Jack's face appeared on the communication screen. "We've made contact with Earth Defense. Command, they're tracking the entity. It landed near one of our major power stations in a region called North America. We've been cleared to land at a nearby facility." "Understood," replied Trell. "We're preparing our environmental protection now." Jack looked concerned. "Captain Trell, I must warn you, our world will be very challenging for your species. Even with protection, you'll find movement difficult under our gravity, and our environment has many hazards your people aren't accustomed to." "We understand the risks," Trell said firmly. "This entity threatens us all." The landing was smoother than expected. The Horizon Seeker's advanced technology compensated for Earth's stronger gravitational pull. As the Alliance crew prepared to disembark, they donned their most robust environmental suits, bulky white outfits with reinforced joints and transparent helmets. "Final checks," ordered Medical Officer Vin. "Oxygen scrubbers at maximum, temperature regulator set, gravity compensation active, though it will only reduce the effect by 30%. "You look like astronauts," commented Emma as she met them at the airlock. Unlike the Alliance crew, she wore only a simple uniform with no protective gear. Early human space explorers wore suits like that to survive in space. "And you need nothing to survive here?" asked Dax, his voice muffled by his helmet. "This is our natural environment," Emma reminded him with a small smile. "Though I'd need something similar to visit your worlds." The airlock door opened, and Earth's sunlight streamed in. The Alliance crew hesitated before taking their first steps. Onto a death world outside, a bustling military base spread before them. Human soldiers moved with practiced efficiency, loading vehicles and checking weapons. In the distance beyond the base perimeter, green hills rolled toward mountains topped with white. "Welcome to Colorado," said Captain Jack, who waited outside, with several official-looking humans. Earth Defense Force headquarters. Despite their environmental suits, the Alliance crew struggled with the gravity. Each step required effort, and Vin was already breathing heavily. The sunlight felt unnaturally intense even through their protective visors. A tall, stern-looking human stepped forward. "General Wade, Earth Defense Force," he introduced himself. "We've never had official alien visitors before, though we've known about your alliance for some time." Trell made the Alliance greeting gesture as best he could in his bulky suit. "We appreciate your welcome, General. We're here to help with the entity." General Wade nodded briskly. "Follow me to the command center. We're tracking it now." Inside, a large building, the Alliance crew found some relief from the sun but still struggled with gravity. The command center was a flurry of activity, with dozens of humans monitoring screens showing maps and data feeds. The entity landed here, Wade pointed to a map. A power distribution hub serving 3 major cities. It's already absorbed enough energy to grow significantly in size and is moving toward the largest nearby power source, the Colorado River. "Damn. If it reaches that," added Jack, "it could gain enough power to become nearly unstoppable." "What's your plan?" asked Trell. "We've evacuated civilians from the area," explained Wade. "Airstrikes have been ineffective. The entity adapts too quickly. It appears to be learning from each attack we throw at it." Emma stepped forward, pointing to data on a nearby screen. "We've analyzed its composition. It's some kind of programmable matter, able to reconfigure itself in response to threats." but it has limitations. It needs to maintain connection to its core, where the original artifact's energy signature remains strongest. So we target the core, suggested Pell. Not easily, Rick said, joining the conversation. It protects the core above all else, surrounding it with layers of its strongest materials. And it learns from each attack, making the same approach ineffective the second time. Trell considered the problem. On our worlds, we would simply evacuate and quarantine the entire region. General Wade shook his head. That's not how we do things on Earth. This is our home, we don't abandon it. What about using the environment, suggested Dax suddenly. All eyes turned to him. You evolved on this death. I mean, on this world. You understand its extremes. The entity didn't. Emma's eyes widened. That's actually brilliant. The entity was designed to protect technology in space. Earth's natural conditions weren't part of its programming. What are you suggesting? Asked Wade. Lure it somewhere even humans find challenging, Dax explained. Somewhere with natural forces powerful enough to damage it faster than it can adapt. Captain Jack looked thoughtful. We have options. The Challenger Deep, deepest ocean trench, crushing pressures. Or maybe Death Valley, extreme heat and dryness, or Mount Baker, interrupted Wade. Active volcano currently showing increased activity. The combination of extreme heat, toxic gases, and unpredictable conditions might overwhelm its adaptation abilities. Can you lure it there? Asked Trell. We'd need bait, Rick said. Something it wants more than the dam. The artifact, realized Emma. The very thing it was created to protect. If we take the original artifact from the ship to the volcano, it would follow, finished Jack. But getting close enough to the core to destroy it would be nearly impossible. Medical Officer Vin, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Unless you had a species with experience navigating dangerous, toxic environments. He looked meaningfully at Trell. The captain understood immediately. My people evolved in methane swamps with high sulfur content, similar to your volcanic gases. Are you volunteering? Asked Wade, surprised. With proper protection, I could get closer than a human, Trell confirmed. Though the gravity here is still challenging, for the first time the humans looked at the Alliance visitors with something new in their eyes. Respect. A joint mission, then, decided Jack. Human transport and support, Alliance expertise for the final approach. General Wade turned to his staff. Prepare the artifact for transport and get our volcanic gear ready. He faced Trell. Captain, would you and your crew like time to rest? Our gravity must be taxing. Trell stood as straight as he could despite the crushing weight on his limbs. There's no time. The entity grows stronger with each passing hour. Wade nodded with approval. Then let's move out. As they left the command center, Dax moved closer. To Emma. I've been curious. Why don't you seem surprised by our existence? First contact should be a momentous occasion. Emma smiled. Who said this was first contact? Humans have been quietly observing the galaxy for decades. We just decided it was smarter to watch and learn before announcing ourselves. But why? Pressed Dax. Her smile faded slightly. Because when you come from a world that tries to kill you every day, you learn to be cautious about new territories. Dax fell silent, suddenly seeing these Death World dwellers in a new light. They weren't just surviving against impossible odds. They were thriving, planning, and thinking far ahead of other species. As they boarded the transport vehicles, Trell wondered what other surprises Earth and its unlikely inhabitants had in store. The caravan of vehicles sped across the rugged landscape toward Mount Baker. Inside the lead transport, Captain Trell studied the data on the entity while struggling with the constant pressure of Earth's gravity. Even sitting down was exhausting, for his alien physiology. The entity has changed course, announced General Wade, looking at a tablet. It's following the artifact as we predicted. Captain Jack nodded grimly. Good. At least that part of the plan is working. The artifact, securely, contained in a special case, sat at the center of their transport. Its pulsing energy was barely visible through the shielding, but everyone could feel its presence. an ancient power never meant to be disturbed. "How much time do we have?" asked Trell. 2 hours at most, replied Emma, studying the tracking data. "The entity moves faster than our vehicles, but we have a head start." Security Officer Pell, her environmental suit modified for combat, checked her weapons. "And if we cannot destroy it at the volcano?" General Wade's expression hardened. "We have a nuclear option standing by. We'd rather not use it so close to populated areas, but we will if necessary." Through the vehicle's windows, Trell could see the landscape changing. The green hills gave way to darker terrain, and in the distance a mountain loomed, its peak shrouded in gray clouds. Even from here, he could see thin trails of smoke rising from its summit. "Your world is constantly trying to destroy itself," observed Medical Officer Vin, who was monitoring the Alliance crew's vital signs. "Volcanoes, earthquakes, storms. How do you survive?" Rick smiled. "We adapt. Build stronger buildings, develop warning systems, create emergency plans. Nature throws its worst at us, and we learn from each challenge. It's made us who we are," added Jack. "Earth has never been gentle. It's forced us to become problem solvers." Dax looked thoughtful. "Perhaps that's why the Alliance classification system failed with your planet. We assumed nothing intelligent could evolve under such conditions, but maybe those conditions were exactly what created your particular type of intelligence." "An interesting theory," Emma agreed. "Adversity as an evolutionary advantage." The transport suddenly slowed as they reached a military checkpoint. Beyond it, they could see a hastily established forward base at the foot of the mountain. Smoke was now clearly visible from the volcano's crater, and occasional tremors shook the ground. "The mountain's becoming more active," warned a soldier who met them. "Seismic activity has increased by 40% in the last hour." "Perfect timing," General Wade said grimly. "Status report on the entity?" 20 miles out and closing fast, sir. We've deployed drones to track it." Screens inside the command tent showed aerial footage of something terrifying. A shifting mass of metallic and crystalline structures moving across the landscape with frightening speed. It no longer resembled anything recognizable, having evolved into a form optimized for its purpose. "It's beautiful in a way," whispered Emma. "A perfect adaptive system." "And perfectly deadly," reminded Jack. The plan was quickly reviewed one final time. They would carry the artifact up to the most active vent on the mountain. There, Captain Trell, with his species' greater resistance to toxic gases, would place it in a position where the entity would have to expose its core to retrieve it. At that moment, they would strike with specialized weapons designed by the human scientists, based on Alliance technology, to disrupt the entity's cohesion. As everyone prepared, Trell found himself standing beside General Wade, watching humans, efficiently moving equipment despite the increasingly violent tremors from the mountain. "You're not what I expected," Wade admitted. "When we first detected your Alliance years ago, many of us assumed any alien life would be, well, more advanced than us. Superior. Instead, I find myself wondering how your people survived without facing the challenges we take for granted." Trell considered this. "Our worlds have different challenges. Less immediately lethal, perhaps, but they shaped us nonetheless." "Different evolutionary paths," Wade nodded, "but the same goal, survival." An alarm suddenly blared throughout the camp. "Entity approaching. 2 minutes out." "Move, now," ordered Jack. The team scrambled into action. Trell, Pell, Jack, Emma, and a squad of human soldiers boarded specialized transports designed for volcanic terrain. The rest would remain at the base to coordinate and prepare the backup plan if they failed. As they ascended the mountain, Trell's environmental suit registered increasingly dangerous conditions outside, rising temperatures, toxic gases venting from cracks in the ground, treacherous terrain. Yet the humans pushed forward with practiced efficiency, as if they had trained for this specific scenario their entire lives. "How can your species endure these conditions?" gasped Vin over the communication system. "We can't, not for long," admitted Jack, "but we've learned to push our limits when necessary." Halfway up the mountain, they got their first direct view of the entity. It was moving up the opposite slope, a writhing mass of metal and energy nearly 30 feet tall. It left scorched earth in its wake as it relentlessly pursued the energy signature of the artifact. "It's even more impressive in person," murmured Dax. "Save your admiration," Pell replied tensely. "It will kill us all if given the chance." They reached their destination, a wide plateau near an active vent. Heat shimmered in the air, and the ground periodically shook beneath them. Sulfurous gases escaped from cracks around them, but the human transports were designed to provide safe passage. "This is as far as the vehicles go," announced Jack. "From here, we move on foot." The Alliance crew struggled to stand in Earth's gravity, even with their mechanical assistance. The heat and toxic environment only made it worse. Captain Trell watched with amazement as the humans efficiently set up their equipment, seemingly unbothered by conditions that tested even their robust physiology. "The entity is 3 minutes out," reported Emma, checking her instruments. "We need to place the artifact now." As planned, Trell took the containment case. His species had evolved in environments with similar toxic gases, and his suit had been specially modified for this task. Even so, each step toward the active vent was agony under Earth's crushing gravity. Behind him, the humans and the rest of the Alliance crew prepared the weapons. They would only get one chance at this. The vent before him glowed with orange heat from deep within the Earth. Trell carefully placed the artifact at its edge, where it would be visible to the approaching entity, but would require it to extend itself over the superheated gases to retrieve it. "Artifact in position," he reported, his breathing labored. "Entity incoming," shouted Pell. The ground shook violently, not from the volcano this time, but from the approach of the entity. It crested the ridge before them, its form constantly shifting and adapting to the terrain. It paused briefly, as if assessing them, before focusing on the artifact. "It recognizes its target," observed Emma, "and it doesn't consider us a significant threat." "Let's change its mind," growled General Wade. As the entity moved toward the artifact, the team activated their weapons. Beams of energy designed to disrupt the entity's cohesion struck it from multiple angles. For a moment, it seemed to work. Parts of the entity began to lose their structure, but it adapted quickly. Within seconds, it had reconfigured to absorb or deflect their attacks. "It's learning too fast," shouted Rick. "We need more power." The entity reached the edge of the vent. Just as they had hoped, it extended itself over the superheated opening to reach the artifact. As it did, the volcano provided unexpected assistance. A sudden violent tremor shook the mountain, and a jet of superheated gas erupted from the vent. The entity's extended form was caught in the blast. For the first time, it showed signs of genuine damage. Its protective layers couldn't adapt quickly enough to the raw power of Earth itself. "There," shouted Jack. "The core is exposed." Sure enough, at the center of the writhing mass, a pulsing crystal became visible, the heart of the entity, momentarily vulnerable. "All weapons on the core," ordered Wade. Everyone fired at once. The combined force of human and Alliance technology struck the exposed core. The entity shuddered and began to collapse inward. Then, with a blinding flash of energy, it exploded outward. The blast knocked everyone back. When Trell regained his senses, he saw the entity reforming. Smaller, but still functional, and now moving directly toward them with clear purpose. "It's no longer focused on the artifact," realized Emma. "It sees us as the primary threat now." "Fall back to position 2, ordered Jack. As they retreated to their secondary position, the volcano rumbled ominously beneath them. The entity's attack had destabilized the already active mountain. "Seismic readings are spiking," warned Emma, checking her instruments. "The volcano's going to erupt." Captain Trell looked from the advancing entity to the humans around him. Despite facing both a technological nightmare and one of their own world's deadliest natural forces, they showed no panic, only grim determination. And in that moment, he understood why Death World 115 had produced such remarkable beings. They had never had the luxury of surrender. The ground beneath them shook violently as they retreated to their secondary position. Rocks tumbled down the mountainside, and dangerous gases spewed from widening cracks in the earth. The wounded entity pursued them, its movements now showing clear purpose. No longer interested in the artifact, it wanted revenge. "The mountain's becoming unstable," shouted Emma over the rumbling. "Eruption is imminent." Captain Trell struggled to keep his footing in the increasingly treacherous terrain. His environmental suit was functioning at its limits, temperature warnings flashing across his visor. The rest of the Alliance crew fared no better, their bodies straining under Earth's gravity. In contrast, the humans moved with practiced efficiency, helping the aliens when needed, but never breaking stride. Even as their own world turned against them, they remained focused on the mission. "New plan," Captain Jack announced, pointing to a ridge overlooking a deep ravine. "The entity is weakened but still adapting. We need a more powerful natural force." General Wade nodded in understanding. "The north face, if we can lure it there when the eruption hits, the pyroclastic flow would hit with maximum force," Emma finished. Even its adaptive abilities couldn't withstand that level of heat and pressure. Science Officer Dax looked at them in astonishment. "You're using a volcanic eruption as a weapon? The very thing we're trying to escape?" "Welcome to Earth," Rick said grimly. "Sometimes you fight fire with fire." The team split into two groups. Jack would lead the humans and most of the Alliance crew to safety, while Trell, Pell, Wade, and Emma would make one final attempt to destroy the entity. As they parted ways, Captain Jack gripped Trell's shoulder. "Good luck. Try not to die on our death world." "We'll do our best," Trell replied, finding unexpected humor in the situation. Their small team moved toward the north face, carrying the artifact. Though damaged, the entity still pursued it relentlessly. Behind them, the mountains rumbling grew more intense. "We have minutes at most," warned Emma, checking her instruments. "Seismic activity is off the charts." They reached the ridge overlooking the deep ravine just as the entity crested the slope behind them. It had condensed into a more focused form, smaller but more densely packed with energy. General Wade set the artifact down at the edge of the ridge. "Now we wait." The entity approached cautiously, seeming to sense a trap. It paused several meters away, its surface shifting and pulsing with energy. For a moment, it almost appeared to be studying them. "It's learning," whispered Emma. "Calculating. Risks. Then let's change the equation," Wade said, drawing his weapon and firing at the entity. The shots were easily deflected, but they provoked the entity into action. It surged forward toward the artifact, extending tendrils of energy toward its prize. At that moment, the mountain gave a violent shudder. Cracks spread across the ground beneath their feet as the volcano finally reached its breaking point. "Now!" shouted Wade. Emma activated a small device attached to the artifact. The containment field collapsed, releasing the full energy signature that had drawn the entity across space. The entity lunged forward, fully committed to reclaiming its charge. As it reached the edge of the ridge, Wade kicked the artifact over the edge into the ravine below. The entity, unable to stop its momentum, followed. "Run!" Wade ordered as the ground began to give way beneath them. They sprinted back down the slope as the mountain finally erupted. The sound was deafening, a roar of primeval force as the volcano released its pent-up energy. Dark clouds of ash billowed upward, and a wall of superheated gas and debris, the pyroclastic flow, surged down the mountainside at hundreds of miles per hour. The team barely reached the emergency transport when the flow hit the north face. The ravine channeled the full force of the eruption directly at the spot where the entity had fallen. Even from their position, they could feel the incredible heat and pressure. "Did it work?" gasped Trell as their transport raced down the mountain. Emma checked her instruments. "The entity's energy signature is fluctuating. The eruption hit it with more force than we could have generated with any weapon." "But is it enough?" pressed Security Officer Pell. They wouldn't know until they reached safety. The transport sped away from the mountain as ash began to fall like gray snow around them. Behind them, Mount Baker continued to erupt, nature's fury unleashed in full. 3 days later, representatives from both species gathered in a secure facility beneath the Earth Defense Force headquarters. The Alliance crew, still confined to their environmental suits but now more accustomed to Earth's gravity, sat across from the human leaders. "The entity has been confirmed destroyed," announced General Wade. "The volcanic eruption completely disrupted its core structure before it could adapt. We recovered fragments for study, but they're inert. No sign of the intelligence that drove it." "And the artifact?" asked Captain Trell. "Destroyed as well," replied Emma. "Perhaps for the best. Some technologies are too dangerous to preserve." "Captain," Jack handed Trell a datapad. "We've prepared a complete report of the incident for your Alliance command. We believe it's time for formal contact between our civilizations." Trell accepted the pad. "I agree, though I suspect our initial classification of your world will need revision." Jack smiled. "Death World 115 doesn't quite capture the full picture, does it?" "No," admitted Trell. "I will recommend reclassification. Perhaps Crucible World would be more accurate. A planet whose harsh conditions forge rather than prevent advanced life." The meeting continued with discussions of diplomatic protocols and future cooperation. As it concluded, General Wade approached Trell privately. "Captain, I have a proposal," he said. "Earth is not yet ready for full integration into your Alliance. We're still developing, still learning our place in the galaxy. What do you suggest instead?" asked Trell. "A special partnership," Wade explained. "Information exchange, limited technological cooperation, joint defense initiatives against threats like the entity. But we maintain our independence, our own path of development." Trell considered the proposal. It was unusual. Most species eagerly sought Alliance membership for its benefits and protections, but then humans had proven themselves unusual in many ways. "I believe my superiors will agree to your terms," Trell finally said. "Your world has much to offer, even if your methods are unconventional." Wade chuckled. "That's one way to put it." Later, as the Alliance crew prepared to depart Earth, Science Officer Dax found himself standing beside Emma, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors that seemed impossibly vivid. "I've been studying your history," Dax said. "Your species has faced extinction many times, ice ages, pandemics, world wars, climate shifts, yet you've survived them all." "More than survived," Emma corrected. "We've thrived because of them. Each challenge forced us to adapt, to become more creative, more resilient." "The Alliance has much to learn from Earth," Dax admitted. "We've avoided many of the hardships that shaped your species, but perhaps we've also missed valuable lessons in the process." Emma smiled. "And perhaps we can learn from you as well. Different paths, different strengths." As the Horizon Seeker lifted off from Earth the next day, Captain Trell stood at the view screen, watching the blue-green planet recede. What had once seemed a terrifying death world now appeared in a new light, a crucible that had forged one of the most remarkable species he had ever encountered. In his report to Alliance Command, he wrote, "Recommend immediate reclassification of planet Earth from Death World 115 to Crucible World 1. Additionally, recommend special diplomatic status for human civilization, with careful consideration of their unique evolutionary advantages. The galaxy may soon face threats that require not only our technology and numbers, but also humanity's particular brand of resourcefulness and determination. In short, we may need those who have mastered living in the harshest conditions imaginable." He paused, then added a final note. "And perhaps we should reconsider our definition of uninhabitable. For as humans have demonstrated, life finds a way, especially when the challenge is greatest." The ship accelerated to faster than light speed, leaving behind the small blue planet that had forever changed their understanding of what was possible.